Hello. So today we are going to deal with the other topics of functions. Constant reference. So basically, in order to protect from accidentally changing a reference parameter, like when we really don't want to change it, then we can use the C keyword called as const. So const is nothing but whenever a reference parameter that is a variable reference when you don't want that particular reference variable to change throughout the program, then we use the word called const. The const keyword can be used for a function, for a variable, basically in order to keep the value same, that is without changing the particular value. So this is an example where how the program works. So here we have the function void do it, and where the parameters are const int ampersand x, and x is equals to 5, which is illegal. Then we come to the main function where z is there, and do it of z and then print of z. Void functions. So void functions is nothing but whenever a function does not return any particular value, then a special type is used. So that special type is known as the void. So basically we've seen many functions where we use int, some addition, or float double, float addition, float subtraction, or something, where we return a value from the function. We do some particular code related to in that particular block of function block, and then we return the particular data type value. But when there's no value that we are returning, then the function is represented by void. So void functions are mostly used in two classes of functions. That is, first, to print the information for the user to read, for example the printf function, and the second is nothing but with the reference parameters. So a reference parameter is not a copy of the input data. A reference parameter is an alias for the same bucket in the memory as the input data. Thus, any change made to a reference parameter is in fact made to the original variable. So as we've seen the constant example, here this the reference parameter, and we are sending z as 27. So the second use of void function says that a reference parameter is not a copy of the input data. A reference parameter is an alias for the same bucket in the memory as in the input data. So any change that is made to a reference parameter is in fact made to the original value. So in these kind of two functions, the void function has been used. Next comes the main function. So basically the main function is nothing but it is treated the same as every function where it has a return type, and in some cases it also accepts inputs via parameters. And the only difference is that the main function is called by the operating system when the user runs the program, and the main function is always the first code that is executed. So as we have discussed earlier, there are many functions like the function which we define, and this main function is basically the function which is called by the operating system when the user will start to function. So as I've mentioned it earlier too, the main execution, the main function, or the first code that will be executed is the main function code, main function block code. Next comes recursion. So in a function that basically a function that calls itself is known as a recursive function. And we have seen recursive function will be seeing in many examples where, see, instead of writing the same block of function codes, the same lines of codes in a function many a times, you can actually call the function whenever it is necessary. So that is called as recursion. So here if you look at the example, you have a function called recurse, and inside it you have the function called recurse again. So here when you call the recurse, the function is calling itself, and in int main you have recurse. So basically recursion applies where You have like when you have to use the same lines of code many a times, so instead of writing the same lines of code all over the program, you can mention these lines of program inside a particular function and call the function name wherever it is necessary. Suppose you have to add the two numbers in order to add two numbers in order to display the display some digits. For example, let us take. So you can actually send two numbers or add two numbers. Like you can ask the user to give the two numbers and add it inside the function called void add, where you add a plus b and return the value if you want. And whenever you are actually performing some other addition of two numbers, instead of writing the same code, that is again taking the numbers from the user, again adding those two numbers, you can just call the function name, and you can give the parameters to it with the arguments. Function with the arguments you can call it, and therefore you'll get the value, the added value will be returned. So this is how a recursion works. So, by this, we've completed all the topics of the functions in C. I hope you guys liked it. Thank you.